Racist employees humiliate black family at the hotel until the father opens his bank account. The luxurious Grandview Hotel in the heart of Manhattan was a symbol of opulence and exclusivity. Its marble corridors and crystal chandeliers witnessed the daily passage of celebrities and tycoons. On that sunny summer afternoon, however, the glittering lobby would be the scene of an event that would shake its very foundations. Dear viewers, get ready for a story that will stir your emotions and challenge your perceptions. Don't miss any details of this impactful narrative. Leave your like right now, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell to stay up to date with all the news. Which city are you watching from? Share in the comments and tell us your first impressions. Stay until the end, because the outcome of this story promises to surprise you in ways you never imagined. The Johnson family, Marcus, a 45-year-old successful businessman, his wife Alicia, a 43-year-old renowned surgeon, and their 12-year-old twin children Zoe and Tyler, arrived at the hotel after a long drive from Texas. Dressed casually and carrying their own bags, they didn't fit the typical image of Grandview guests. At the reception desk, Brad Thompson, the shift manager, straightened his designer tie and cast disdainful glances at the newcomers. Beside him, receptionist Megan Walsh whispered and giggled, her eyes fixed on the approaching family. Marcus approached the counter, smiling tiredly. "Good afternoon. We have a reservation for the presidential suite in Johnson's name." Brad raised an eyebrow, his gaze sweeping over the family's simple clothing. "Are you sure you didn't get the wrong hotel, sir? The Grandview is an exclusive establishment." Marcus's smile faltered, but he maintained his composure. "I'm absolutely sure. Can you check, please?" Megan, exchanging glances with Brad, entered the name into the system. His eyes widened for a moment before returning to his disdainful expression. "We didn't find any reservations in this name, sir. Perhaps the motel on 42nd Street would be more suitable for you?" The nasty comment echoed through the lobby, attracting curious looks. Alicia held Marcus's hand, trying to calm him down, while the twins shrank back, feeling the weight of the prejudiced looks. Marcus took a deep breath, his voice shaking slightly. "I insist you check again. The reservation was made months ago." Brad, with a condescending smile, replied, "Sir, we don't have any reservations for people like you. I suggest you look for more appropriate accommodations." The air in the lobby became heavy, charged with tension. Other guests began to move away, some whispering, others observing the scene with a mixture of curiosity and discomfort. The public humiliation was palpable, and the Johnson family found themselves at the center of a whirlwind of prejudice and discrimination. It was at that moment that Marcus Johnson made a decision. Without saying a word, he pulled out his phone and made a quick call. The silence that followed was broken only by the sound of your fingers sliding across the screen. What would happen next would change not only the fate of the Johnson family, but also the lives of everyone present at the Grandview Hotel that fateful day. New York was buzzing under the scorching August sun, but inside the Grandview, the air conditioning maintained a pleasant temperature. The lobby, now tensely silent, was a microcosm of the city, diverse but segregated along invisible lines of class and race. Marcus Johnson, born and raised in Harlem, had built his empire from scratch. The son of a janitor and a cleaning lady, he turned his talent for numbers into one of Wall Street's most successful investment firms. His wife, Alicia, from a middle-class family in Atlanta, had earned her place as one of the most respected heart surgeons in the country. Together, they represented the American dream come true, but at that moment, in front of prejudiced eyes, they felt the weight of a fight that had never really ended. Zoe and Tyler, the twins, watched the scene with a mixture of confusion and discomfort. Raised in a privileged environment, it was the first time they had faced prejudice so directly. Zoe, the more extroverted one, shook her brother's hand, while Tyler, always more introspective, seemed to want to disappear. Across the counter, Brad Thompson represented a Manhattan old guard. The son of a traditional Upper East Side family, he viewed Grandview as his personal domain. For Brad, the hotel was more than a job. It was a fortress against the changes he saw happening in the city. Every celebrity, every millionaire he received was an affirmation of his own status. Megan Walsh, on the other hand, was a newcomer to New York from a small Midwestern town. Her carefully neutralized accent and designer clothes were an attempt to fit into the glamorous world she so desired. Her behavior was less one of conviction and more of imitation, following Brad's example in hopes of being accepted. As the tension rose, other characters in the lobby began to stand out. An elderly couple, the Goldsteins, watched the scene with clear disapproval, not of the Johnson family, but of the behavior of the employees. Holocaust survivor Samuel Goldstein murmured to his wife Rachel, "This reminds me of dark times, honey. I thought we were over it." Near the entrance, doorman Juan Rodriguez, a Dominican immigrant who had worked at the Grandview for 2 decades, watched the scene with a mix of anger and helplessness. He was no stranger to special treatment, having often been mistaken for an employee even when he was off duty. In the hotel bar, visible from the lobby, the famous actress Sophia Loren watched the events unfold with interest. French by birth, but a New Yorker by choice, Sophia was known for her activism as much as her film roles. She wondered whether she should intervene or let the situation play out. The Grandview, with its imposing facade and centuries-old history, held many similar stories within its walls. Built at the beginning of the 20th century, the hotel had already been the scene of secret meetings during Prohibition, hosted world leaders during the formation of the UN, and witnessed countless negotiations that shaped the business world. Now, it was about to become the setting for another historic moment. The city outside continued its frenetic pace, oblivious to the drama unfolding inside the hotel. Yellow taxis honked, tourists took photos, and executives rushed to their meetings. But inside Grandview, time seemed to stand still. Marcus, still with the phone in his hand, looked at his family. In Alicia's eyes, he saw the same determination that had attracted him when they met in college. In the faces of his children, he saw the innocence he fought to protect and the future he worked tirelessly for. With a deep sigh, Marcus turned back to the counter. What he would do next was not just for his family, but for every family that had ever been humiliated and discriminated against. It was time to show the world that a person's true worth lies not in the color of their skin or the cut of their clothes, but in the content of their character and the strength of their actions. Marcus Johnson, with a calm that contrasted with the tension in the air, he turned to Brad and Megan. His voice, firm and controlled, echoed through the silent lobby. "I would like to speak to the general manager, please." Brad, still maintaining his air of superiority, replied, "I'm the shift manager, sir. I can solve any problem you think you have." At this moment, the elevator doors opened, and a middle-aged man wearing an impeccable suit walked into the lobby. It was Richard Hawthorne, the general manager of the Grandview. His eyes quickly assessed the situation, noticing the palpable tension in the air. "Is there a problem here?" Richard asked, approaching the counter. Before Brad could respond, Marcus stepped forward. "Mr. Hawthorne, I presume." "Marcus Johnson. We have a reservation for the presidential suite, but there seems to be some misunderstanding." Richard's face paled visibly. He knew the name Johnson very well, not because of the man in front of him, but because of what he represented in business circles. "Mr. Johnson, it is a pleasure to welcome you. There has clearly been a serious error here. Please allow me to resolve this personally." Brad and Megan exchanged confused looks, while Richard quickly checked the system. "Here you go, Mr. Johnson. Your reservation for the presidential suite for 2 weeks. I sincerely apologize for the inconvenience." As Richard apologized, the lobby began to murmur. The Goldsteins nodded in approval. Juan, the doorman, couldn't hide a satisfied smile, and Sophia Loren watched everything with growing interest from the bar. Marcus, however, was not satisfied with a simple resolution. "Mr. Hawthorne, I appreciate your intervention, but the treatment my family has received is unacceptable. It's not just about our reservation, it's about dignity and respect." Alicia, seeing an opportunity to turn the moment into something bigger, added, "How many other families have been treated this way?" and just walked away, humiliated. Richard, feeling the weight of the situation, tried to appease. "Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, I assure you this does not reflect Grandview's values. We will take immediate action to—" But Marcus interrupted him. "Immediate measures are not enough, Mr. Hawthorne. This is a systemic problem that requires fundamental change." At that moment, Sophia Laurent decided to intervene. Approaching the group, she introduced herself. "Forgive me for intruding, but I cannot remain silent in light of what I witnessed. I am Sophia Laurent, and I would like to offer my full support to the Johnson family." The famous actress's presence attracted even more attention, with some guests discreetly beginning to film with their smartphones. Richard, realizing the situation was quickly spiraling out of control, tried once more. "Why don't we continue this conversation in my office? We can discuss how to resolve this appropriately." Marcus looked at his family, then at Sophia, and finally at the curious faces around him. He realized this moment was bigger than just his personal experience. It was an opportunity to bring about real change. "No, Mr. Hawthorne. This is exactly the place to have this conversation. Here in front of everyone." Zoe, finding her courage, stepped forward. "Dad, can I say something?" Marcus nodded proudly. Zoe turned to the gathering crowd. "I always thought places like this were magical, where everyone was treated like royalty. Today I learned that that's not true for everyone. That's not right." His simple but powerful words touched many of those present. Murmurs of agreement began to spread throughout the lobby. Tyler, usually shy, also found his voice. "We don't want special treatment. We just want to be treated like everyone else." Brad and Megan, who until then had been watching the scene with a mixture of shock and discomfort, began to realize the gravity of their actions. Megan's face showed signs of regret, while Brad maintained a stubborn expression, although visibly shaken. Richard Hawthorne, seeing that the situation had turned into a possible public relations nightmare, tried one last trick. "Mr. Johnson, I understand your frustration. How about we discuss an upgrade to the Imperial Suite and a complimentary dinner in our restaurant Starry?" Marcus looked at the manager with a mixture of disappointment and determination. "Mr. Hawthorne, this isn't about upgrades or free dinners. It's about dignity, respect, and real change. And that change starts now, right here." The Grandview's lobby, once a symbol of exclusivity and privilege, now became the stage for a confrontation that would go far beyond the hotel's walls. The Johnson family, with the unexpected support of Sophia Laurent and the watchful eyes of dozens of witnesses, was about to spark a conversation that the Grandview, and perhaps all of New York, could no longer ignore. As the tension in the Grandview lobby reached its peak, at this point, several subplots began to unfold, adding layers of complexity to the situation. At the hotel bar, Sophia Laurent made a discreet gesture to her assistant. "Jake, contact my media team. This is important." Jake nodded, understanding the potential impact of this story. The actress, known for her activism, saw this moment as an opportunity to amplify a crucial message about equality and justice. Near the entrance, Juan Rodriguez, the doorman, was fighting an internal battle. Years of silenced injustices weighed on his conscience. He looked at his badge, then at the Johnson family, and made a brave decision. Approaching the group, he said in a shaky voice, "Mr. Johnson, Mrs. Johnson, I would like to share my experience here at Grandview, if I may." Richard Hawthorne, realizing that the situation was expanding dangerously, made an urgent gesture to his assistant. "Sandra, call our legal team immediately," he whispered, his forehead glistening with sweat. Meanwhile, the Goldsteins, the elderly couple, approached Alicia. Rachel Goldstein, with tears in her eyes, held Alicia's hand. "Honey, what you're going through. It reminds me so much of what we've been through. We can't be silent again." Brad, the shift manager, began to feel the weight of his actions. His phone vibrated. It was a message from his sister. "Brad, you're on the news online." "What's going on?" He paled, realizing his actions had consequences far beyond the hotel lobby. Megan, on the other hand, was conflicted. Raised in a small conservative town, she always dreamed of the glamorous life of New York. Now, faced with the reality of her own prejudices, she wondered if this was the time to rethink everything she believed. Zoe and Tyler, the twins, were processing the situation in different ways. Zoe, inspired by her parents' courage, began discreetly filming with her cell phone, determined to document this important moment. Tyler, ever the silent observer, noticed something interesting. Some of the hotel's lower-ranking employees, housekeepers, baggage handlers, cleaning staff, appeared to be exchanging supportive glances with each other and with the Johnson family. In the midst of the confusion, a new character emerged. Elizabeth Chen, a freelance journalist staying at the hotel to cover a fashion event, recognized the potential of the story unfolding before her. Discreetly, she began taking notes, knowing that this incident could be much bigger than a simple misunderstanding at a luxury hotel. Marcus Johnson, realizing that the moment had turned into something much bigger than his family, decided to seize the opportunity. "Mr. Hawthorne," he began, his voice calm but firm. "What happened today is not an isolated incident. It is a symptom of a larger problem. I am willing to work with Grandview to implement real change, but it requires a serious commitment on your part." Alicia, ever the family strategist, added, "Maybe it's time for Grandview to lead by example. Imagine the positive impact this hotel could have if it truly embraced diversity and inclusion, not just in words, but in actions." Richard Hawthorne, feeling cornered, but also recognizing a unique opportunity, responded cautiously, "Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, we are open to discussions. Perhaps we can schedule a meeting with our board of directors to address these issues more comprehensively." At this moment, Sophia Laurent stepped forward. "If I may, I would love to be part of these discussions. My foundation has experience with diversity and inclusion programs. We could offer resources and guidance." The Grandview lobby, once a symbol of exclusivity, was now buzzing with the energy of impending change. Every person present, from the Johnsons to the staff, from the guests to the casual observers, felt like they were witnessing a pivotal moment. As the complexities of the situation unfolded, it became clear that what began as an incident of discrimination was turning into an opportunity for systemic change. The Grandview, and perhaps the entire luxury hotel industry, was about to face a crucial turning point. The Grandview lobby was immersed in a tense silence when suddenly the main doors opened. A tall man with grey hair and an impeccable suit entered with determined steps. It was William Grandview III, hotel owner and heir to the Grandview hotel empire. All eyes turned to him, including Richard Hawthorne, who looked a mixture of relief and apprehension. William surveyed the scene in front of him, his eyes moving from Marcus Johnson to his family, then to Sophia Laurent, and finally to his visibly uncomfortable employees. "Good afternoon, everyone," William said, his deep, authoritative voice echoing through the lobby. "It looks like we have a situation here. Mr. Johnson, Mrs. Johnson, may I have a word with you in private?" Before Marcus could respond, Alicia stepped forward. "With all due respect, Mr. Grandview, I believe that any discussion we have should be done here openly. What happened today not only affects our family, but reflects a larger issue that needs to be addressed publicly." William looked surprised for a moment, but then nodded slowly. "Very well. You're absolutely right, Mrs. Johnson." He turned to face not only the Johnsons, but everyone in the lobby. "Ladies and gentlemen, guests and employees of the Grandview, what we witnessed today is unacceptable and goes against everything this hotel is supposed to stand for." A murmur ran through the crowd. William continued, "The Grandview was founded by my grandfather with the vision of being a place of excellence and hospitality for all. Some time ago, We lost sight of that vision. Today, thanks to the courage of the Johnson family, we have the opportunity to correct our direction. He turned to Marcus and Alicia. Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, on behalf of Grandview and our entire team, I sincerely apologize for the treatment you received, but words are not enough. Actions are necessary. William paused, looking at Brad and Megan, who looked like they wanted to disappear. Starting today, we will begin a complete review of our policies and practices. We will implement a comprehensive diversity and inclusion training program for all employees, from the doorman to the CEO. Sophia Laurent, seeing an opportunity, interjected, Mr. Grandview, if I may, my foundation would be honored to collaborate with you on this initiative. We have experience developing similar programs for other organizations. William nodded gratefully. We would greatly appreciate your expertise, Miss Laurent. Juan, the doorman, gathered his courage and stepped forward. Mr. Grandview, I have witnessed and experienced similar situations here for years. Many of us minority employees have ideas about how to make things better, but we have never been heard. William looked at Juan with a mixture of surprise and embarrassment. Juan, right? You're absolutely right. From now on, we will form a diversity and inclusion committee, and I want you to lead that committee. Your voice and those of your colleagues will be heard and valued. Juan's eyes widened in surprise, and a hesitant smile formed on his face. At this moment, Elizabeth Chen, the freelance journalist, could no longer contain her professional curiosity. She walked over, holding her notepad. Mr. Grandview, Elizabeth Chen, independent journalist, may I ask what prompted this sudden change in stance? And how does Grandview plan to ensure these promises translate into concrete actions? William hesitated for a moment, but Marcus Johnson intervened. If I may, Mr. Grandview, I believe transparency is crucial at this time. Ms. Chen raises important questions that deserve answers. William nodded, grateful for the intervention. You're right, Mr. Johnson. Ms. Chen, to answer your question, what motivated me was shame. Shame that I had allowed my grandfather's legacy to deviate so much from his original values. As for concrete actions, I propose the following. Over the next 30 days, we will present a detailed plan of action with measurable goals and a clear timeline. We will invite external experts, including Ms. Laurent and others, to audit our progress regularly, our advances. The crowd in the lobby reacted with a mix of applause and murmurs of approval. The Goldsteins, the elderly couple, exchanged emotional glances. Samuel, Rachel whispered, this reminds me of Martin Luther King's speech, small steps that can lead to big changes. Zoe and Tyler, the twins, watched everything with wide eyes. Zoe, still discreetly filming, whispered to her brother, Ty, I think we just witnessed history in the making. Marcus and Alicia Johnson looked at each other, a mixture of pride and determination on their faces. What began as a humiliating incident had turned into a catalyst for significant change. William Grandview, feeling the weight of the moment, concluded, this is just the beginning of a long and necessary journey. I invite all of you, guests, employees, and the community at large, to join us on this journey of transformation. Together, we can make Grandview as an example not just of luxury, but of equality, respect, and true hospitality for all. The Grandview lobby, once a symbol of exclusivity and thinly veiled prejudice, now vibrated with the energy of change and possibility. A new chapter was about to begin, not just for the hotel, but potentially for the entire hotel industry. In the hours and days following the incident at the Grandview, shockwaves spread quickly, triggering a series of reactions and consequences that no one could have completely predicted it. The next morning, the story was in the headlines of major newspapers in New York and beyond. Luxury and prejudice. The day the Grandview changed was the headline in the New York Times. Social media was exploding with the hashtag #JustGrandViewAccountability, with thousands sharing their own experiences of discrimination in luxury hotels around the world. Elizabeth Chen, the freelance journalist who witnessed the event, published a detailed article that went viral within hours. His piece not only chronicled the events of that afternoon, but also contextualized the incident within a larger pattern of discrimination in the luxury hotel industry. For the Johnson family, reactions were mixed. While they received a flood of supportive messages and interview invitations, they also faced unexpected scrutiny. Some questioned whether the incident was nothing more than a publicity stunt, while others accused them of using their economic privilege to create unnecessary drama. Marcus and Alicia decided to use the media attention strategically. In an exclusive interview with a national news program, Alicia stated, "It's not just about us. We're using our voice for those who can't make themselves heard. How many families have left in silence, carrying the pain of discrimination?" At Grandview, changes began immediately. Brad, the shift manager, was suspended pending an investigation, while Megan was sent to an intensive diversity awareness program. Juan, the doorman, has been promoted to a leadership position on the hotel's newly formed Diversity and Inclusion Committee. William Grandview III kept his word. Within a week, a team of consultants specializing in diversity and inclusion, led by Sophia Laurent's Foundation, began working at the hotel. All employees, from senior management to rank-and-file workers, were required to participate in workshops and training. The hospitality industry as a whole has been forced to look inward. Other luxury hotels, fearful of being the next targets of public scrutiny, have begun reviewing their policies and practices. The Luxury Hotel Association announced the creation of a working group to develop best practice guidelines on diversity and inclusion. Zoe and Tyler Johnson, the twins, have become unexpectedly influential on their social networks. The video Zoe discreetly recorded during the incident, which she decided to share with her parents' permission, has had millions of views. Tyler, in turn, started a blog where he shared his reflections on the incident and subsequent discussions about race and privilege. The Goldsteins, the elderly couple who witnessed the incident, became vocal supporters of the cause. Samuel Goldstein, in an open letter published in the Wall Street Journal, drew parallels between the discrimination he faced as a Jew in pre-war Europe and the current experiences of minorities in the United States. Not all reactions were positive. There was a significant portion of people who argued that the incident was being exaggerated, that it was an isolated case being used to promote a political agenda. Some Grandview regulars threatened to boycott the hotel, claiming it was giving in to cancel culture. However, for every negative voice, there were many more in support of change. Celebrities and business leaders began making public statements of support for Grandview and the Johnson family. Several CEOs of large corporations have announced that they would only do business with hotels that have clear and proactive diversity and inclusion policies. A month after the incident, Grandview hosted a symposium on inclusive hospitality in the 21st century, with the Johnson family as honored guests. The event, which was attended by industry leaders, activists, and academics, was broadcast live and watched by millions around the world. As the weeks turned into months, it became clear that what began as a heartbreaking incident at a luxury hotel had turned into a catalyst for much greater change. The Grandview, once a symbol of exclusivity, was becoming a model of transformation and inclusion, not just for the hotel industry, but for the corporate world as a whole. 6 months had passed since the incident at the Grandview, and the transformation was palpable, not just in the hotel, but in the lives of everyone involved. For the Johnson family, the incident became a turning point. Marcus, inspired by the reaction to the event, decided to expand his investment firm to include a fund specifically focused on minority-owned businesses. "It's time to use our privilege to open doors for others," he declared at an investor conference. Alicia, in turn, used her position as a renowned surgeon to start a mentoring program for medical students from underserved communities. Diversity in medicine saves lives, she argued in an article published in the New England Journal of Medicine. We need to ensure that our profession reflects the population we serve. Zoe and Tyler, the twins, have matured in unexpected ways. Zoe, inspired by journalist Elizabeth Chen, became interested in investigative journalism, focusing on social justice issues in her school newspaper. Tyler, always the quiet one, discovered a passion for programming and began developing an app to report and track incidents of discrimination in public establishments. At Grandview, the changes went beyond initial expectations. Juan, the former doorman now leading the Diversity and Inclusion Committee, has become a respected figure not just in the hotel, but throughout the hotel industry. Under his leadership, Grandview implemented a revolutionary training program that became a model for other hotels. It's not just about avoiding discrimination, Juan explained in an interview. It's about creating a culture of true inclusion, where every guest and employee feels valued and respected. Megan, the former receptionist, has undergone a profound personal transformation. After completing her diversity awareness training, she asked to be transferred to the Human Resources Department, where she now leads the hotel's diverse recruiting initiatives. My eyes were opened, she shared in a staff meeting. I now understand the power and responsibility we have to create a truly welcoming environment for everyone. William Grandview III surprised everyone with his continued commitment to change. He not only kept his initial promises but went further. Grandview has established partnerships with historically black universities and Hispanic institutions, offering internship programs and scholarships to students interested in hospitality and tourism. This is not a short-term project, William declared at a shareholder meeting. It's a fundamental shift in who we are as a company and as an industry. Grandview's transformation has not gone unnoticed. The hotel has seen a significant increase in its occupation, with many guests choosing it specifically because of its commitment to diversity and inclusion. Companies have begun to prefer Grandview for their conferences and events, citing alignment with their own corporate values. Sophia Laurent, whose foundation continued to work closely with Grandview, used her influence to expand the conversation. She produced a documentary entitled Beyond Lobby: Unraveling Prejudice in the Hotel Industry, which debuted in various movie festivals and generated global discussions. The Goldstein, the elderly couple who witnessed the original incident, became frequent visitors of the Grandview. They organized a group of Holocaust survivors to share their stories with hotel staff, creating bridges between generations and cultures. Elizabeth Chen, the journalist who initially covered the story, won a Pulitzer Award for her series of articles on discrimination in the hospitality industry. His work inspired similar investigations in other sectors, from high-class restaurants to exclusive country clubs. Brad, the former shift manager who had been suspended, went through his own self-discovery journey. After months of reflection and therapy, he sought the Johnson family to apologize in person. Although he has not returned to Grandview, he became a vocal defender against prejudice, sharing his history as an example of how prejudice can be overcome through education and self-reflection. As the incident's first anniversary was approaching, Grandview announced plans for an international conference on inclusive hospitality in the 21st century. The event would bring together industry leaders, activists, academics and politicians to discuss how to make the hospitality industry truly welcoming to everyone. Marcus and Alicia Johnson were invited as main speakers. Preparing for the event, they reflected on the incredible journey they had traveled. When we entered that lobby a year ago, we never imagined we would be here today, said Alicia. But this proves that when we refuse to accept injustice and work together for change, we can transform even the most painful situations into opportunities for growth and progress. Marcus agreed, adding, "Our fight is not over. There is still a lot of work to be done. But looking back, I see that this difficult time was the catalyst for a change that goes far beyond us. It is a powerful memory that each one of us has the power to make a difference. The day of the international conference, Inclusive Hospitality in the 21st Century, has finally arrived, marking a year since the incident that changed the Grandview and reverberated throughout the hotel industry. The hotel was unrecognizable, not just in its physical appearance, but in the energy that emanated from its corridors and staff. On the morning of the event, the Grandview lobby was sealing activity. Delegates from around the world arrived, representing an impressive diversity of cultures, ethnicities, and experiences. Juan, now Director of Diversity and Inclusion, coordinated a multilingual team of receptionists, ensuring that each guest was received in their native language. Behind the scenes, Marcus and Alicia Johnson prepared for their opening speech. They had spent weeks refining their message, determined to use this platform to boost even greater changes. "I'm nervous," Alicia admitted, adjusting her blazer. "It's a huge responsibility." Marcus took his hand, giving a comforting squeeze. "Remember, honey, our story is powerful not because we are special, but because it represents the experience of so many others." In the main conference hall, William Grandview III supervised the latest preparations. The space had been transformed with the most advanced technology for live broadcast and simultaneous translation. Interactive panels on the walls showed real-time statistics on diversity in the global hotel industry. Sophia Laurent arrived early, accompanied by a filming team. Her documentary, Beyond the Lobby, would be displayed as part of the conference, and she planned to capture footage to a sequence focused on the positive changes that were taking place. Elizabeth Chen, now a renowned journalist, circulated through the hall, collecting initial impressions of the participants. She noticed the presence of several CEOs from large hotel chains, many of which had initially resisted the idea of systemic changes in their organizations. Zoe and Tyler, twins Johnson, had important roles at the event. Zoe would lead a panel of young activists discussing the future of inclusive hospitality, while Tyler would present the prototype of his discrimination tracking application. As the start time was approaching, the tension and expectation were palpable. This was not just another corporate conference. It was a potentially decisive moment for an entire industry. In the final minutes before the official start, a series of unexpected events began to unfold. A group of protesters gathered outside the hotel, protesting what they called excessive politicization of the hotel industry. Last-minute news came about an incident of discrimination at another luxury hotel in Paris, adding urgency to discussions about to begin. An influential CEO of a rival hotel chain arrived by surprise, expressing interest in participating in the discussions. Juan received an urgent call stating that one of the main speakers had been arrested in traffic and could be late. While the Grandview team worked frantically to manage these last-minute challenges, Marcus and Alicia Johnson were preparing to take the stage. They knew that what they would say in the coming minutes could shape the future not only of the Grandview, but the entire global hotel industry. William Grandview III made one last announcement for the sound system. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to start. Please take their places." The buzz of the crowd gradually decreased. The lights of the hall began to decrease, focusing on the center stage. A giant screen behind the podium lit, displaying the conference logo, a stylized image of hotel doors opening to a diverse and colorful world. Marcus and Alicia looked at each other, exchanging one last look of determination and mutual support. They knew they were about to enter a moment that would define not only their lives, but potentially the future of an entire industry. As the steps rose to the stage, the silence in the hall was total. Hundreds of eyes were fixed on them, and thousands more watched online from around the world. The moment of the climax had arrived. Marcus and Alicia Johnson took the stage, side by side, while a wave of applause reverberated through the hall. The following silence was loaded with expectation. Marcus approached the microphone, his firm voice echoing through the auditorium. Exactly a year ago, my family and I got into the lobby of this same hotel, not as guests of honor, but as targets of prejudice and discrimination, he began. A murmur toured the audience. Today, we are here not to reopen old wounds, but to build bridges for a better future. Alicia took a step forward. The incident we live in was not unique. It was a symptom of a systemic problem that has been in our industry and our society for decades. But what happened next? That was extraordinary. At this point, the screen behind them lit, showing an image and videos assembly of last year. The changes in the Grandview, the initiatives of diversity, the faces of employees and guests of all origins. What we see here, continued Marcus, is the power of change, the power to face our prejudices and actively work to overcome them. Suddenly the doors of the bottom of the auditorium opened. Brad, the former manager who had been the catalyst for the original incident, entered. A buzz of surprise traveled the room. "Mr. Johnson," said Brad, his trembling voice to the microphone that was given to him. I would like to say something if you allow me." Marcus and Alicia exchanged surprised looks, but nodded. Brad took the stage, visibly nervous. "A year ago, I was the face of prejudice at this hotel. My actions caused pain and humiliation to the Johnson family and embarrassed this institution," he began. "Today I'm here not to ask for forgiveness, but to show that change is possible, that we can learn, grow, and become better." The audience was absolutely silent, absorbing each word. Brad continued, sharing his journey of self-reflection and learning. When it ended, there was a moment of silence before a wave of applause erupted. Alicia, with tears in her eyes, hugged Brad. "This," she said to the microphone, "is the true power of change. It's not about punishment, it's about growth and reconciliation." Marcus resumed the word. "But our journey is far from over. Today we launched the Open Doors Project, a global initiative to transform the hotel industry. The screen behind them has changed, showing the details of the project. Training programs, diversity goals, partnerships with universities, and sub-reported communities. "This is not just a Grandview project," announced William Grandview III, joining them on stage. "We are proud to announce that more than 50 of the world's top hotel chains have committed to participate." A murmur of excitement traveled the audience. Cameras flash-aided as journalists ran to register the moment. Sophia Laurent got up from her seat. "And don't stop there," she said. "My foundation is committed to investing $100 million over the next 5 years to support this initiative." The announcement was received with a foot ovation, but the most powerful moment was yet to come. Zoe and Tyler, the twins Johnson, took the stage. Zoe spoke first. "Like the generation that will inherit this world, we demand more. We demand a future where no one is judged by the color of your skin, but by the content of its character." Tyler, usually shy, found his voice. "And we are ready to lead this change. Today we launched the Hospital app, a platform to ensure hospitality is truly for everyone. Udidi, an application demonstration appeared on the screen, showing how users could evaluate establishments based on inclusiveness and report discrimination incidents. The energy in the room was electrifying. Marcus looked at his family, Brad, William, and the diversified audience in front of him. He knew this was the time to seal the commitment. "Today, we are not just talking about changing an industry," he said. "We are starting a movement that says, hospitality does not know color, race, religion, or origin. A movement that declares that every human being deserves to be treated with dignity and respect." Alicia concluded, "This is our commitment. This is our promise, and we invite each of you to join us on this journey." While the audience rose in a resounding ovation, tears, smiles, and hugs were shared. What began as a painful incident a year ago had become a catalyst for a global change. In the Grand View lobby, now transformed into a symbol of inclusion and progress, a new era in the hotel industry was beginning. And while the cameras captured the historical moment, it was clear to all present that this was not the end of a journey, but the exciting beginning of a new. In the weeks and months following the Inclusive Hospitality in the 21st Century conference, the waves of change spread far beyond the Grand View walls. The Open Doors project quickly gained strength, with hotels around the world by adopting its guidelines and implementing training programs. Statistics began to show a significant increase in diversity between both employees and luxury hotels. The Hospital app, created by Tyler Johnson, has become an instant hit. In just 6 months, it had millions of users worldwide, providing valuable inclusion data in the hotel industry and enabling travelers to make informed choices. Zoe Johnson, inspired by the impact of the event, decided to pursue a career in investigative journalism, focusing on social justice issues. His first article, a profound analysis of the transformation of Grandview, was published in a national prestigious magazine. Marcus and Alicia Johnson became prominent figures in the movement for equality and inclusion, not only in the hotel industry, but throughout the service sector. They were invited to speak at universities, corporate conferences, and even the UN. Grandview, under the leadership of William Grandview III and Juan, now Director of Diversity and Inclusion, has become a model of excellence in inclusive hospitality. The hotel saw a significant increase in its revenue and reputation, proving that inclusion was not only ethically correct, but also good for business. Brad, the former manager, found a new purpose as a diversity consultant, sharing his personal transformation story to inspire changes in other organizations. Sophia Laurent produced a sequence of her documentary, Beyond the Lobby, The Hospitality Revolution, which became a critical hit and helped bring the conversation about inclusion to an even greater audience. Elizabeth Chen won another award for her continuous coverage of transformation in the hotel industry, highlighting both progress and continuous challenges. The Goldstein, the elderly couple who witnessed the original incident, were honored at a special Grandview ceremony for their role in supporting the change. Its history of survival of the Holocaust and the continuous struggle against prejudice became an integral part of the hotel's training program. A year after the conference, independent research showed a significant reduction in incidents of hotel-reported discrimination worldwide. Although there was still work to be done, progress was undeniable. On the eve of the second anniversary of the original incident, the Johnson family gathered at the Grandview lobby. Looking around to the smiling faces of the staff and guests of all the origins, they felt a mixture of pride and humility. "Who would say," Marcus muttered, "that a moment of pain could lead to so much positive change?" Alicia squeezed her hand. "It's a powerful memory," she said, "that each of us has the power to make a difference. Just have the courage to get up and perseverance to keep fighting." While heading for the celebration dinner, the Johnson family knew that their journey was far from over. But looking back to the path they had traveled, they were inspired and ready to face the challenges that were yet to come. Grandview, once a symbol of exclusivity, now shone as a lighthouse of inclusion and positive change, illuminating the way to a fairer and more welcoming future for everyone. Years after the Grandview incident, the global hotel industry had changed dramatically. The Open Doors project had expanded to other sectors, influencing restaurants, airlines, and even themed parks. Tyler's hospital application had become an essential tool for travelers worldwide. Zoe was about to publish his first book on the revolution in hospitality. Marcus and Alicia, now international speakers, continued to inspire changes. Grandview, under the leadership of William and Juan, was recognized as the most inclusive hotel in the world. The journey was far from over, but the way for a more inclusive future was clearly outlined. Specker, you came to the end of this exciting journey with us. If this story touched your heart and opened your eyes to the importance of inclusion and mutual respect, we ask you to act now. Share this story, start difficult conversations, and be an agent of change in your community. Remember, every small act of kindness and understanding can make a difference. If you watched this far, please comment, "I watched it to the end," to show your support. And don't forget to click on the final screen video to continue exploring inspiring stories like this. Together, we can create a more inclusive and welcoming world for everyone.